Hey everybody, Greg Boyer of Bow Junkie Media, bowjunkiemedia.com. It's time for another podcast. We have been setting them up and knocking them down. There's a lot of cool things happening in our space and our industry right now. For a lot of people in America, obviously the World Archery President gig that Greg Easton is running for might not be the top of your priority list, but those of us in the space can understand that there is a trickle down effect. So the better World Archery does, and the better that everybody does compounds in the Olympics and all that kind of stuff, it kind of raises the tide for all ships, is the way it goes. But without any further ado, today's guest is a familiar face to the program. He has obviously had a stellar shooting career. He's been in the industry for a long time. There's probably a few categories that he's not hit in his ownership slash management career, but I'm sure he has a bucket list and he'll get to those here in the future anyway. But appearing from his well-to-do basement that obviously looks like it smells of rich mahogany and leather-bound books, it's Eric Griggs. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, man?
Oh, hanging in there, dude. Just out here doing the thing. What's going on with you?
Yeah, just it's August and it's raining in bowstrings. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, Google drinking from a fire hose and just insert Eric's face right there. And we will definitely get to that. For those of you that have listened to the program before, obviously, I really like Eric, respect what he's done. Like I said in the teaser, he's always very upfront and honest and stuff. And so one of the things that I've seen from Eric, and obviously what some of you have seen, and I wanted to kind of get some clarification for those of you wondering. Obviously, Gas Bowstrings is is one of his entities, but I also wanted to discuss um, his procurement of the archery tooling corporation, or the Spike Press. And
Hmm.
I loved George. He was super cool. But let me tell you, the first rule about Spike Press Club is you don't talk about Spike Press Club. The second rule of Spike Press Club is the same. And unless you knew somebody, you wasn't just getting a spike press. So, um, I I run the spike press. Yes, people, I purchased it. That's how much that's how good I think this product is I dumped all my other stuff and bought this, and I have zero regrets ever about it. And so let's start with the bow press thing. Um, Obviously, I have not saved up enough nickels yet to get the drawboard. Which, look, folks, I've been running a drawboard since Cabe Johnson at Spot Hog made me one with a boat winch on a 4x4. So I've been a fan of drawboards for 25 years. There is nothing like the drawboard that Eric now has. It's not it's not even fair to compare it to anything else. Calling it a drawboard is not fair to it or the other drawboards. That's how good it is. So, first and foremost, let's kind of hit on that, and talk to people about, those. Most people aren't going to know who George is, but kind of talk about him a little bit and kind of how you managed to pull that deal together.
Sure, absolutely. So, George, he started Archery Tooling Corporation. It was like in 2012 is when he kind of first did his first press, and he done some stuff, and I think it wasn't long after that. I think he'd hit a couple ATA shows, and people started seeing the spike press. And I got to be honest with you. I used lots of different presses over the years. Everything from, I'm going to show my age a little bit, the old Apple with the jack pistons, and the ones that crank down with the rack and pinion, and the riser twisters, and everything in between. All the different X presses, and obviously the stuff from Last Chance, and everything. So there's, you name it, presses that I've used over the years is pretty much everything that's been out there. Even some sketchy stuff that we won't talk about here. So I was a consumer, right, for this. I'd always looked at these things and I was like, gosh, these look pretty good. And well, what I've got's okay. This works. And then one day I actually had acquired uh, kind of the remnants of an archery shop that had gone out of business, and I finally got one of these presses, and I won't lie, that was on the list of the things that were in there, and I'm like, oh, spike press, yeah, sure, yeah,
Right.
take my money, I'm in, I'm gonna get this. So, and really and truly, that was probably the only thing of value that I actually got out of that deal. But instantly became my favorite. Now, this isn't the slider. This isn't the new version right. This is the old one, right? So, all the bows that I would work on in the shop, is, like I said, personal favorite, and I think everybody, all of our other guys, pretty much, gravitated towards that, just being. I mean, you could just tell. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, the design of it, just it's so robust. It's easy to use. I mean, it just works, right? So huge fan of that. So, fast forward, got a chance I did save up my pennies, and I wanted to grab a draw board, and fell in love with that thing too. That it's a game changing deal as far as, putting a bow in that, as opposed to, just hooking it up to, something. It's just different. It's not the same.
Correct.
So loved the products. Absolutely loved the products. Became acquainted with George. Had a few different conversations with him, and was always enjoyed those. Just a wealth of knowledge, and you could just tell the kind of mad scientist stuff that he had going on. And so this past year at ATA, just a common friend, somebody had worked some with George and everybody, and a guy that I knew very, very well, had known him for many, many years. Steve Van Zyl, had come to me and said, "Hey, I think George is thinking about potentially stepping away. So if this is something that you're interested in, you need to talk to him." So, I you know, I turned and make sure that Carla wasn't looking at me or whatever. And I about just, here I am in Indy, and I about just dropped what I was doing, booth full of people, and everything else, and ran that way. It's not quite that, but yes, I made sure I made my way over there, that week,
Right.
and talked to him. And George had, anytime I've, let me go move into a past life. I've been involved in a lot of acquisitions over the years,
Yep.
and done a lot of that stuff. And everybody has, some people, they just want to cash out and go. Other people, there's a legacy that they want to be carried on. Some people, everybody has something different that they're looking for in that right there. So, that was my question to George. Like, okay, awesome. I understand. This is what you're considering. Everything else. What do you want to see? Where would you like to see this go? What's going to make you, happy and whole with this whole thing? And I think one of the things that he was really, really keyed up on is not so much. I mean, he had a line of people. He had all kinds of people that were interested in this. It was actually a pretty hot commodity with this, as obviously what a great product, right?
Yep.
What he was concerned with is someone that was just going to, continue to carry on the legacy of what he's done, but be able to scale it to the next level. And
Right.
I think that's, it would have been easy for somebody to come in who said, well, listen, I've got a big machine shop and a fab shop, and I can just drop this into what we're doing, and bada boom, bada bing, we're gonna fly these things out. And that would have been an easy play. But I told him, I said, man, I've done similar things like this. I referenced, blast from the past. I referenced custom bow equipment, years ago, and what, kind of where that was able to go from where it started, in somebody's, basically in their basement garage, and, to what it became. So we talked, and, and I think the more and more we talked, and he finally said, yeah, I'd like to sell you my company. And I was, that was one of those types of days, right? Because it's so cool when you're a fan of a product, right? I mean, like, and the thing of it is with this product, it's like the best dog food that none of the dogs know about.
Fact.
And you know, this thing is so good, and it's such a great product that so many people have still like they're like, well, what is this? And proof of that was having a two of these things on a big like husky cart, and with the draw board on the end, and having these things at the events this year, like at the TAC events and different things. People coming up, be like, well, what are these things? I've never seen them before. And well, let me tell you about them. So, it's pretty cool. I think, like you said, the people who were in Spike Press Club, they kind of kept to themselves, and they weren't necessarily telling all their buddies because,
Shirts and stickers, forthcoming. Hashtag
yeah, oh, yeah,
Press Club.
oh yeah, Spike Press Club. I'm making note here. It wasn't like it wasn't this widely talked about thing because they're like, I probably want to get another one, so I'm just gonna be on the DL here. So anyway, yeah, this happened. Archery Tooling Corporation is now Archery Tooling Concepts. Just some legalities out of having Archery Tooling Corporation LLC. It just doesn't, you can't do that. So,
Right.
we made a small change. That's pretty much it. The yellow, so many people that come up and ask, well, you're going to change that yellow? You're going to make, I mean, that's like, surely to God, you're going to change the yellow. I'm like, no,
No way.
no, no. That yellow is so recognizable. You can
Right.
see that the second that you walk in the doors of a pro shop and you look, oh yeah, look, they got a spike press. It's yellow.
Right.
Because I can promise you it's not an old apple press at this point, right?
No.
Those things are all dead and gone in the grave.
Right.
So yeah, it's super recognizable, and it is very, very important to me. My commitment to George was 100% that I was gonna build on the legacy that he created, on the products that he designed, which he did a fantastic job with, by the way.
Right.
And we're gonna build on that. Now that's not to say that we're not going to add products, or we won't make,
Oh yeah.
down the line, make some sensible, subtle changes, or whatever. I mean, I've been asking everybody that's ran one, conversation I had, a few months ago, with Cooper French. I said, he's been running one of those things for a while. They did it at PSE. It's like, what would you change?
Right.
He's like, nothing.
Right.
Like, okay, well, fair enough. And I ask that question a lot. It's because it's anything else. Me coming in, I don't know all the history. I don't know all the different things that that people have. Yeah, there's some things about it. People ask another common question: when are we going to get a motor on this thing? When can we get a foot pedal? Well, to do that, we'd have to change the pitch of the lead screw. We'd have to slow that puppy down, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of people with parts sitting in their hands. Tap, tap, tap. They turn over and they look over their shoulder and they turn, boom, right?
Right.
It's so fast. The lead screw is so fast on that. So that's not to say that if the demand is there for things in the future or whatever, that we won't look at that. But yeah, I mean, my first mission anytime we do something is we're going to come back out to market, and we're going to exist exactly the same way that George existed.
Right.
We're making the exact same stuff.
Right.
So,
Well, and let's speak the unspoken. You and I both know, and this is going to be a statement, and then of course a question is, you and I both know that George wouldn't have sold the company to someone that was just going to ship it over to China. He wouldn't have. I'm sorry. I've known George for a while. I've called in many a favor to get people presses so they could join the Spike Press Club. And George wouldn't have sold this to someone who was just going to send one over to China and have it replicated. He wouldn't have. He would have said no.
right.
So that's the statement. Now comes the question. Where are you making the Spike Press?
Kentucky. So
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah. So George was, he had kind of had two locations. He had a place in Long Island, and that was kind of like his business office. Georgia's got property, all over the place, even all over the world, right? And in Greece and different things like that. But and then he had like a vacation home in the Poconos where he was actually like putting these things together, and he had like a small machine shop in his basement, and his garage. He'd go upstairs, and he could go out on his deck and watch deer and bear coming in, and anybody that's follows him on Facebook, you see some of those pictures, and then he could go back down, and he builds a few more presses, and he had a really good operation there. For us, it makes the most sense. And we talked with a variety of different people. We talked to some vendors, some people that I had looked at potentially partnering with that could have, provided some turnkey service on, the fab work and the frames and everything else. And, what we decided is, well, I'm not gonna go and turn our shop into a machine shop. We have an excellent machine shop. We've got a fantastic machinist, and he does a fabulous job on that and our ACU Archery stuff. Um, but as far as like the fab work, the simple cutting, drilling, you know, all the welding, the powder coat, everything else, as far as that goes, yeah, we're going to bring that. We're doing all that in house. So we've got powder coat ovens, spray booth. Got a couple guys working for us that are welders. All the assembly, everything's happening in house, and that's the best way for us to be able to. I know this is a rocket ship that's about to go.
Right.
Yeah, and the only way for us to really uh, be able to be scalable and everything else is to maintain control over those aspects, in house.
Yep.
And so that's what we're doing. So it's taken us a little longer to get out of the gate and kind of out to market with a lot of our unique stuff and everything else. But we're also working through some of the inventory that needed to have stuff matched up and everything else. For anybody that's ever done this, sometimes it's easier to just almost start from scratch and just build all the stuff you need than it is sometimes to take one of these and one of these and two of these, and okay, well, now I need to make one of these to match this and one of these to match that. But so is how it is. And it's where we had money tied up in some of the inventory with the purchase. So that's what we're working on, but it's super exciting, that's for sure.
So Kentucky is where they're made, people, for the
Yes.
record. So you mentioned, by the way, folks, if you're watching, I'm not do diddly diddling myself on my phone. I'm actually pulling up a picture. So Eric referenced that the first one he had didn't have the slider. So I'm going to show folks that are watching without screwing this up. Do you see that little pin right above the metal rod? You pull that pin, and then I'll let Eric explain what the slider does.
Yeah, so different axle length bows, right? So the biggest thing that you have, if you've worked on a bow, I mean, you're sitting there and you're crank, 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 right? Imagine you got a Title 40 in there, and then your buddy comes over and he's got a crossbow,
Right. Or 29.
right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we're yeah, or yeah, maybe I didn't shouldn't have said the
Oh, it
crossbow
takes
word, but you
forever, but yeah.
but you but yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? It is, crank, 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 crank. I mean, you're going to be there even at this fast pitch screw. You're going to be there a while,
Yep.
and that goes for if you've got a foot pedal. You're going to sit there on the foot pedal, and you might as well get yourself a snack or something because it's going to take that long before it gets in there.
Right.
This here, you pull that pin, slide it to where you want, you're done, right? And then stick it in there, do your deal, pop it open, bring it back. There's a 30-inch axle bow or a 36 or whatever it is. And it just makes it very, very simple. It's a very fast setup between bows, and you're not sitting there, cranking on that hand wheel all day.
It's ridiculously fast. I on mine I actually have a Sharpie mark, says 40, and then my
Yeah.
hunting bow is 34. So it goes 40, 34, and then when friends come over, I have a 30. And so it literally only takes people, like, I'm not even shitting you. It takes like two and a half turns and you're pressing. So with the slider, I just have marks and I just look, and depending on what bow I'm on, I just go to that mark. It fits in, couple cranks, and I've pressed it. It is that, to me, is one of the most intuitive things I might have ever seen. It's it's just an incredible feature. And so let's talk a little bit about, and I did show on that picture the metal bar that has the little white, I don't know if it's Delrin or plastic or whatever, but I was about to say something there. So if you've ever shot in a bow out of the bottom of a squeeze press before, you understand the amount of fear and the amount of trepidation in possibly losing a digit because it happens. Um, I've done it. I know people who've done it a bunch of times. I know shops that have done shooting a bow out of the bottom of one of these happens, but not on the spike press. And so talk a little bit about that feature so that that white part slides in and on. And once you put your bow in there, you just, and the bow can't fall off the bottom. Shoot, I should
Yeah.
out the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. So those pieces are actually spring loaded as well. So there is a little bit of give to it when you're doing some stuff, but you get that and you get it started, get everything where it's at. And honestly, if you've got the right pins, if you're using the correct proper pins, even there's stuff that works on it for an extreme angle, or upright or whatever it is. If you're using the correct angled pins, it never should be an issue. Should be an issue. But that's the insurance policy right there. And that's actually patented tech. That George had was, so those limb guards. So having those right there, it's a complete extra safety factor. And I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, everybody, like you said, if you've ever shot one of those out the bottom, right? And you look and you see those limbs and you're beyond peril and you're just looking, you're like,
And they're like, and they're sliding just a little bit. Yeah.
oh yeah. Yeah, if that thing, I tell you what, if your bow starts to slide just a little bit and that doesn't give you the kind of heebie-jeebies, you're a man's man right there. My hat's off to you.
All right. Or ignorance is bliss. I mean,
It
it's
it could also be that, yes.
yeah. And so one of the other things that I like about them is that there's two different holes for the fingers to go in. That totally did not sound right. I That did not sound right at all. But on the
Top hole and a bottom hole. It's for your fingers to go in.
Eric's doubling down. Copy that, brother. So there's so the fingers have two positions on the spike press. One is straight and one is angled.
Yeah.
Explain to people kind of what what that's about.
So if you were to take so basically the angled up position right there. If you were to take let's say it's a very say a 1990s bow that doesn't have our bows today, everything's got not everything is parallel or beyond, but most everything's pretty much there. With this really stood up limb angle right there, that works for pressing those. And that's also depending on what bow you're taking apart, and pocket angles, and kind of going back to even some older stuff or some crossbow stuff, that just absolutely gives another level of of safety factor when you're pressing it, to make sure that you're actually pressing on the limbs and not in a way that could make something shoot up or whatever. So
Right.
combination of the actual pin angle, and then the pin angle that's coming out of the pin blocks,
Right.
and then the angles themselves of the pins right there, it pretty much hits. I mean, there's nothing that can't be pressed.
Right. Exactly. So, obviously, yes, folks, it comes with a tool tray. It comes with every finger you could ever possibly imagine. I have like three sets. I think I've only ever used one. But here's my question. And this is something that I actually took a picture of the ATA booth at Vegas because they had a standalone rack. Like my previous presses, you could get a rack, a stand, I should say. So at Vegas, the ATA booth had a spike press and a draw board on this pretty handy dandy little standalone stand. And I was like, where'd you get that? And they didn't say Spike Press Club says I can't tell you, but they might as well have. And so I asked Eric, and so this is one question that I have for you, and I suppose I should probably get to where you are as far as getting caught up and stuff, but I'm not gonna. Are you at some point going to come out with some sort of a stand that could either accommodate just the spike press or a spike press and a drawboard?
Yes. Let me see if I can find a picture on my phone since we're doing that. I'll yeah. Yeah, it was very very common request, and that's honestly that's a pretty easy one. That's one of the benefits of us doing, all of our own, fab work in-house. So
Oh,
maybe we can see that there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
So, essentially it's super simple. You've got, the stand, it's adjustable for the height, for a small dude or a big dude like yourself, as far as where you want that height at. And then, the back side of it right there, you've got the drawboard that can hook to that. So we're going to offer the stand as a standalone. So if you just wanted the bow press and didn't want the drawboard, and then you'll be able to hook the drawboard stand, to it.
Right.
And we've worked out the balance of it and the offset. So it all, everything's like pretty stable. So that's
Nice.
actually been probably the most common request that we've had, right in the beginning, and be like, are you going to
Okay.
make a stand? Be like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. There's enough people that are asking for that we will 100% have that. And the plan for that would probably be ATA will probably have those.
Okay. And then you had mentioned, and this was something that George had explained to me years and years ago, and that was the thread pitch of the internal bolt. For those that don't know, you can go down to Home Depot and buy thread all. You can go to Home Depot and buy 7 foot. I made that part up. Long. You can buy
Yeah.
long pieces of thread all, and they're all in a standard pitch. And most of the other presses that I've seen of this style use that standardized pitch. George did not. And so by not doing that, it also cost George more money to make it because that's not normal. So explain to folks kind of one, why he did that and the benefits of it.
Yeah, so your lead screw, and just imagine, here's something that should resonate with everybody. Anybody that's had a movable sight, right? So you've got, there's some that are on just a regular, just normal pitch, and then you have like an Acme, which might have a 4 start or a 2 start or whatever. So basically the Acme, the lead screw that's in this right here is a super expensive hardened lead screw. You'll never wear it out. You'll never, it's a lifetime screw, right? I mean, and then the nut that goes on there is a machined bronze nut,
Oh,
right? So it is, yes, it's not yeah. I mean, this thing's not going to wear out in either of our lifetimes or probably our kids, even if they used it every day. Now, what you can do with that sort of lead screw is that, you can increase the pitch of it, which is the speed in which it travels. And that's kind of what's been done there. And again, super expensive option to do it that way. I was actually, when I sat down and I did the bill of materials and looking at this thing and everything else, my jaw just kind of dropped when I was like, wow, okay, well, I I see why you're doing it though. Makes sense. You know,
100%.
rock on, rock on. We'll keep doing it.
Right.
So
Well, if you're making a Ferrari, you don't cut corners. You just
yeah.
don't. So okay, so let's jump back and forward, of course. So where would you estimate you are as far as, I don't want to use the word caught up because caught up's a relative term, but where are you with the presses and the draw boards and such as far as going through the old inventory, getting restocked, and then kind of getting the company onto its new feet?
Sure. So when we bought this, the inventory we had, there would have been like, 20 of these and a bunch of these and different forms of whip, all the way across the board. And we've pretty much welded up all the parts that we've had, and we've already started on some new parts that were original to us. And we have a few machine parts left to go before we can mate up all of those. I'm gonna say my best guess is, here in the next 2 weeks, we should be, basically in production of, all of these presses as we move forward. One of the cool things is, like, even though you know, we needed 30 of these of this part, right? To be able to use all of these presses we're not making just 30. We're making 100 of these, right? So, and then all these other ones, so that when we get going, then it's, we're really moving. We're basically there. We have all the parts, and we're assembling draw boards now, assembling and shipping draw boards. Presses are, again, we're probably 2 weeks out, and then we're up and running, and pretty much in full production. Now, in the beginning, our ability to produce is going to be, we've got this flood of orders. We've got a bunch of orders that are sitting in now. So, I mean, I would say, if somebody's wants to be a part of the Spike Press Club, I would probably get the order in sooner than later.
Right.
Because then it's all going to come by, we're going to fill these orders by what's in there.
Right.
But we're going to have a steady flow from there. I mean, that's where we catch up. That's where the steady flow of stuff just comes through, and that's something that we're able to control, again, because we're doing the powder coat, we're doing the welding. We can ramp that up. We've got some other people that we've got some flex employees that are doing some other things, and we can bring them into doing some welding and some powder coat and some different things. So, yeah, I mean, we're really, really close. And I won't lie, this whole process definitely took longer than what I anticipated. But we shifted gears. Originally we were just gonna do the assembly. Like, that was it. That was the only thing we were gonna do. We were gonna find, we had people to weld, the machine shop. We were gonna have people powder coat. And all of a sudden, we're just looking at this, and we start comparing things, and we start putting all this together. And it's like, all right, I got to send this over here, and then I've got to get it back, and then I bring this over here, and we do all this right here. The math doesn't math, right? It really, like, your costs are just through the roof, to the point that you really don't have the ability to sell it to dealers, right? At least with any margin, or distributors or whatever. And then you never know what the scalability is. Outside vendors that's always, and that becomes the X factor, that you just don't know when you're using, decorators and, whatever it is. I mean, it's tough. It's
Right.
tough. So anytime that you can control those things, that's you're so much better off, and you have much better scalability, and you kind of create your own destiny. So,
Well, and I think your timing of it is pretty damn good, because look, Garrick and his companies always do everything to support dealers. We both know we wouldn't have an industry without dealers. Let's just get that put out there in shiny neon signs. However, there's a lot of folks that want to be DIY guys these days. And so, let me ask you this before we transition over to ACU. Where can a dealer or a regular person, where are you directing them to get in the queue to become members of the Spike Press Club? Where are you directing them right now?
yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. So, you can buy directly from us. If you're a dealer, you know, contact ATC, get a hold of us directly. Consumers, same, you can get them from us. You can also get it from your dealer, right? So that's something that, that is one thing that we did change, that, um, you know, George had one price,
Right. Right.
right? And while there's not margins in, in stuff like this. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna sell it to the dealer and the dealer's gonna make a whole bunch of money and everything else. We're trying to make this so that we can have outlets, like so that the dealer could sell it to one of their customers who wants to do these things, or the different online places, or whatever that they're able to do this. Because without that, it becomes a very singular distribution point.
Right.
And that's hard to scale that way from a sales perspective.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have some stuff there. And then we're also, for people that want to buy, not just a press, and then they can buy their fingers like a la carte or whatever. People that want to get like packages, we've got some stuff where there's discounts there too. So like you could get, a tool tray and 5 sets of fingers, or the ultimate, pro shop kit where you get, 8 fingers, a tool tray, the spike press, and the bow draw, right? And all of that, kind of like this whole kit. Like there you go. So,
Right.
and then there's some decent discounts for getting it that way. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be. I think you're going to see this, the availability of this, in a variety of different places. At some point, when we get up and rolling, we'll work with even the international distributors, so that we can get this thing in Europe and different places. I'm sure that it'll be, a hit there with the shops and the DIY thing. Just like you said, I mean, I hate to be in full transparency, right? I own one business that's very dealer driven, right? You can buy from us retail direct, but one of the things that's got us to where we are is that we 100% support our dealers,
Yep.
right? More so than our competitors. I'll just come out and say that. Like, we are 100% support of our dealers. Now with this other company, I am making a product that I'm like, hey, go to your local dealer, but
Right.
if you want to do it yourself, here I got a product for you. So
Sure.
yeah, I mean, that one's a little tricky for me, and I kind of go back and forth on that. But here's the thing: I'm not going to change the DIY thing is here, right? I mean, there's so many people, and it's not a matter of them not wanting to support their dealer; they just want to work on their own stuff.
Right.
And as frustrating as that can be for me from a bowstring perspective, because 9 out of 10 tech support and warranty calls we get are DIY guys. It's not, you know, it's not the Arizona archery clubs
Oh,
and the Spokane Valley archeries, and the archery countries of the world that are calling up with warranty issues, or the bow racks. It's the guy who's doing his own thing,
yep.
right?
Yep.
And that is what it is. But I think with this here, I think that there is I don't want to say an obligation, but I think that part of some of the things that you'll see from us, specifically on the ATC side, is that creating this library, or plethora of information, and just making sure there's an easy access place for getting stuff like, hey, listen, I'm changing the strings on my Darton, or my Matthews, or whatever, and what do I do, and how do I do it, and everything else. And I think that that's part of our commitment with this, is that we're gonna create a pretty good library of that sort of stuff to make sure that the information's all there to be had.
Right.
So
Now, is ATC under the gas umbrella, the ACU umbrella? Is it its own umbrella, like as far as a
it's
company goes?
Yeah, so the way we structure all of our companies is we do have a parent. It's basically kind of the essentially like the management group for each of these companies or whatever, but everything's its own entity, right?
Okay.
So its own EIN number, its own P&L set of books, and
Okay.
and that's one of the things. Here's a rabbit hole. I'm hypersensitive to that, right? I'm super sensitive to making sure that each of our brands maintains its own individual identity, and that because I have a whole bunch of people. I mean, the majority of our employees, they get up every day, they put their feet on the floor, and they think about bowstrings.
Right.
That's all they think about. right? It's not like I've got people that be like, hey guys, hurry up and get your bowstrings built because we got to go over here and build bow presses.
Right.
We have Gas has its employees, ACU Archery has employees now, ATC has employees,
Yeah.
all on different sets of books and different designated staff. So I am as we kind of have these brands, it is one of those things. I mean, and I've already heard it, be like, oh, here we are, we've got another conglomerate, we're do ah,
Right.
big sigh, right?
Eric's like, I'm just trying over here to do my best, people.
Yeah, PTSD. So, I mean,
Right.
here's the thing. I mean, yeah, we're still it's a very small family business. About the only thing that we have is we have a few shared resources, right? Our accountant does stuff for all three companies, right? I mean, we have, we our marketing kind of spills over and does a little bit here, a little bit there, and some of the sales side. But I mean, as far as like the designated, staff for each company, I mean, we're there and we run them very, very independently from one another. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, Carla and I do own all three. So I mean, there are synergies that exist too, right? I mean, so it's not all bad that comes with that, but those are the things that I battle as we kind of expand and build out our lines and whatnot. Is it's definitely, I don't want to say it's a challenge, but it's one of the things that we work on is making sure that each company has its own brand identity.
Sure. So speaking of, let's move to ACU Archery. For those of you that started noticing at the beginning of the year, these little cable doodads with some weights on them that either are on people's stabilizers or on their risers. I have not had a chance to play with one on my own bow, but I have at Vegas. I did grab someone's bow and I did a couple of stabilizer nerd things to see. I wanted to see what the frequency response was in on the amplitude side. And so basically, and this is something that once I'll have Eric send me one to try, of course. But the thing that I noticed about it is if you do a big slow movement, it doesn't even move at all. But if you do a very tight high frequency movement or a shake, yeah, it fires up. And there is no doubt that it absolutely, now I'm not going to say that it matches frequencies because I don't have an accelerometer to put on both, but what I can tell you is just from playing with somebody else's bow, big movements, it doesn't even move. But that's not what we do anyway. But when we're aiming, we have these small little vibrations and these small little movements, and it absolutely helps for those. And it wasn't even my own bow. So when I get one, of course, I'll put it all around and all that kind of stuff. But from the time that I played with it on someone else's bow, um, I'm I'm fairly convinced that the efficacy of the product is absolutely there. So obviously everybody doesn't have it in the same place, all that kind of stuff. So Eric, let's talk a little bit about this. Where did this come from? And are you probably can't be surprised with the success it's had because it works.
I, no, I would say that we knew it was going to be successful. I didn't know that it was going to be this successful. And that's definitely pretty cool. The just hearing from people. Got a text today from if they want to do a video or they want to talk about it or whatever. That's cool. I'll let them do that. But a very very well known person within our and respected person in our industry. It just, I think the thing said, holy blank, this thing works, or the aim is solid, like it. So I mean, so wind back, there was Dan Kelly. Dan Kelly is actually the inventor on this. And, for those that don't know Dan, Dan and I worked together at the outdoor group. Dan was an engineer there, very, very talented engineer. If anybody remembers the backspin release, for one, that was one of Dan's things. There was several different release aid patents and different site things. So anyway, on the Scott and CBE side of things, Dan and I worked really, really closely together for a few years. And then he had a lot of stuff, on the bow side as well that he had done. So, a lot of that team, from that era has, moved on to different places, within the industry, and some of them outside of the industry. And Dan had an opportunity, and actually worked for the Gordon family some, during some of their stuff, and worked a lot in composites and everything else. But as an archer, he had some target panic issues, and was trying to figure out some ways around mitigating that, because he felt like in his mind his extra movement, and that kind of twitchy movement that he was seeing was, it just wasn't helping the cause, right? And
Right.
and I think for anybody that's had that, I mean, that's not necessarily how you're going to fix target panic. I'm not making that claim, but the more you aim and the more you bounce around, and the more you see that thing twitch, and everything else, it just makes things a lot more difficult.
For those
That's it.
for those of you watching,
Oops,
just
spin to
got
win.
I just got hit with an ad. Thank God it wasn't. I don't even know what website I'm on, but thank God it wasn't a adult ad. No, actually, the first link I pulled up was Podium Archer. But anyway, that is the SOS. And
Yeah.
so as Eric continues to speak, those of you that are watching can see that it affixes to either this obviously has the mount on it to go on a stabilizer, but there's wires with the weights on there. So I just wanted to show folks that. Continue.
Sure. Yeah. So anyway, I'll get to it here. Dan had Dan developed a patent, and had done some pretty cool things. Had done a lot of testing. Had actually done a bunch of testing on like the Olympic recurve platform, which I thought was pretty cool. And he kind of sat on this for a while, and he showed this to me. And the first time he showed this to me, I was not in a situation that I could do anything with it. I had not acquired ACU Archery at the time. I was just trying to make it happen with gas, kind of getting some things up and rolling. And, fast forward, a few years, and had acquired ACU Archery, one, just because the little AccuLock bow lock thing that's on a lot of these different bows that you see in shops or box stores or whatever. You know that right there was one thing, but it was a pretty simple deal, and I was looking to have something that was going to be this umbrella for other products to come. And so finally got a chance to have a serious conversation with Dan. And I got to be honest with you, I had my apprehensions about yeah, those guys.
That's the
Yep.
lock right there, folks. For those of you looking, if I move this the right way, that's the lock he was talking about that he originally purchased that goes through, prevents people from drawing the bow, whether it's in a shop or TSA or whatever. But for those of you listening, it's just basically a safety lock that goes through the limb and the cam so no one can draw the bow. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So what we did is we prototypes were made, and I put together a field of test subjects, and this ranged all the way from I'll throw some names out there. I had obviously Braden and Tanya, and Brady Hempen was another, and a couple other pros from back home. Ryan Reed, another one, Michael Evans, who that if you haven't heard of that name, if you hadn't heard of that before this year, you have now. Had a great year on the ASA circuit, and pulled down a win and made the shoot off a bunch of times.
Yep.
And then and then all the way down from that to some more average shooters and everything else. So the test was, and this to kind of go a little bit into this, we first started with some Mantis stuff, and some of the like the aim steady, or the steady aim, I'm not sure which one it is. We tried to do some stuff there, and there was some of it was a little bit odd and skewed, because it only captures like that last whatever that is in the Mantis. And so it was interesting, because we had once you got to like a certain level, If you were, kind of 95, 96 or higher, it just didn't seem like there was much change between, if you're 98, it didn't really matter. You were still, because it's only gauging like that last, whatever second that
Right.
before you fire. Um, so the other piece of this, and this was where I'm glad we did it this way, is we actually, got a mount where we'd have a green laser, and it plotted on a target. So we would have a camera on the target that they were shooting, which was a 3 spot at 20 yards, a camera on the whiteboard, which was just, we were simply plotting the laser, and we had a camera on the archer. And so we went through and did this test. And it's always, because this isn't really a plug and play deal, you kind of have to tune it to get it right, to get it in there. It's not like you can just add that, and it's obviously going to make your bow heavier or whatever. I mean, it was a challenge to kind of get everybody set up in a timely manner where we could just kind of put this thing on here and be like, okay, now go. What do you think? Do you like it? Is it good? It's not, and I didn't really want it to be that way. So
Right.
so it was really kind of a blind test, and be like, okay, you shot, tell me what you think, And so 12 people, and 10 out of the 12 said that they felt like there was a really, really positive experience for them, that they would put it on their bow if they had the choice of shooting with or without. Of the two that one was kind of indifferent, and one was basically, yeah, I didn't really care for it, right?
Right.
So we go back and we look at the test data, and then a couple of them were like, yeah, I think it was okay, but I couldn't really tell, but I think I like it. I'm not sure. So we go back and we look at test data, and test data is where that's where it doesn't lie, right? So, and we plot that, and we compare one versus the other, and everything else. And long story short, after that, we were able to compile that and whatnot. The next conversation I had was, how do I purchase this patent, and what can we do to move forward?
There you go.
It was compelling. It was very cool, and it was one of those things that it's very, very rare in my, almost 35 years of doing this, in this industry, that you come across something that you're like, that can make somebody better.
Right.
Like, that can take the average guy, who's, shooting okay, or maybe he's not shooting as good or whatever. That can make him better. And I thought that was really, really cool. And so this was a product that I definitely wanted to bring to market.
Now,
And
so
I
are you seeing any patterns? Because, like I said, some people have it on their riser, some people have it on the stabilizer. I'm assuming it comes with the mounts for each. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So are you seeing any patterns between people that might have it on the back bar, the front bar, the riser? Like, is there any consistencies there that you could give people maybe a head start? Not a put it here and leave it, but
Yeah, so I think what we're learning, and we're still learning, by the way. We're learning about this thing every day. I mean, we had people that started with them on stabilizers, and they were putting them like out towards the end, and then they're kind of bringing them back, and they're putting them in a variety of different places. And then we came out with the product, the Hunter Elite, right, which was it was kind of a little bit of a scaled down version. Doesn't have the adjustability of it. It's just, a bracket, quick disconnect if you want to run it on your front, but it basically just kind of, it'll mount to your riser. And we see so many. We set up the frequency of that a little bit differently, because that's mostly going on short axle bows, high let off, and let's face it, going to, as a whole, the majority of the people that are aiming those bows aren't aiming at a, world class professional archer level as far as how they aim.
right.
You get a little bit more twitchiness and everything else. But what we're learning, yeah, that's it.
That's the Hunter
So
right there
yeah,
that he's talking about.
yeah, the Hunter Elite. So with that, and where we see things kind of migrating a lot, is it seems to be, kind of tight to the riser. You see people like like Paige Pierce, who had tried it in a variety of different ways, and she's got it mounted like directly on her riser. I think Heather Gore did a kind of a cool video that got a lot of attention, and she did the same thing. I mean, she just basically took it and mounted it, kind of low on her riser. And it seems to be that a lot of people are having really, really good luck that way. And then you turn around and you look at, somebody like, a KJ Polish or whatever, who's, fell in love with it. The first, 5 arrows that he had on there, he's like, wow, he's got his mounted on his stabilizer, and a lot of people still do. So I think that, we're learning more about it, and we're learning more with the, the frequency of the wires, and the stiffness, and there's also an orientation of these right here where it's stiff up, down, and weak left, right, or you can flip it 90 degrees and it would be just the opposite.
Right.
And what you're seeing there. I threw a target bow together just to shoot the Bass and Bucks, Midwest thing, and what very, very little bit. The tournament was on a weekend. I threw a bow together on a Wednesday. Started off with nothing on it right there, and then I actually tried a Hunter Elite. So on a Concept X40, you've got a couple of those extra stabilizer holes down there. I actually put it in the bottom, rear stabilizer hole, and I put it there. And that was, for me, that was just an instant, because I'm sitting there shooting at 60 yards, and I'm way out of shooting shape, and I'm kind of, got this little twitchy thing going all over there. And it for me right there, it probably cut it, 40%. And
Really?
just I mean, a very, now I gotta be honest. I've played with other setups and other bows and everything else there where it wasn't that easy. I had definitely had to find its sweet spot, but on that particular bow, that just worked right there. So I think we're learning a lot. I think that when in doubt, you kind of stay tight to your riser as a place to start.
Okay.
And then you kind of work out, because you got to imagine, even like the ones that go on the stabilizer rods. I mean, you can actually do some. It kind of will blow your mind, because one of the things that I thought was very, very interesting when we started doing the testing was that you could put that in a way, and you could kind of tune it with the amount of weight and how far out you got it right there, that it aimed really, really well for you, but it actually like was inhibited your correction process. So the normal process of aiming, right? You don't have to think about it. Your pin comes down, it comes back up. Pin comes down, it comes back up. It normally does this, and it's always crossing. All of a sudden, it like stops. It stops the pin, and but it's just sitting right there, and it's kind of doing one of these, and you're like, wait a minute, I got to pull this back up. So it does some. That's how you know that the tech works, right? That's
Right.
how you know the technology works. And we knew the technology it existed. This isn't a tuned mass damper is not this is not new technology, right? They've used it in bridges, skyscrapers, aviation equipment, camera gimbals. I mean, this stuff's been around for a while.
Right.
It just hasn't been applied to archery, right? And or any shooting sports.
Yep.
Hint, hint. So there's some cool stuff, with that. But we knew the tech worked, but actually seeing it do things, which albeit maybe not how you'd want to set it up for shooting, good scores or whatever. When you watch it like do things, be like, it's just kind of blows your mind. You're like, whoa, what's happening there? So there's some stuff working.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the wires several times and tuning those wires. Explain that.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, the way you would tune the wires essentially is that it's spring and return, right? That's what those wires are doing. So, less weight, less spring, more weight, more spring, and you get the wires more reactive. So you have that, and we talked about the different orientation that you can rotate those.
Right.
I mean, it took a little while to get this dialed in. So I can tell you, like, the wire length on the Hunter Elite is a little bit shorter, so you have an overall just a slightly stiffer setup than you do on, say, the Target version.
Hmm.
on the heavy metal, so we've got a heavy metal and a heavy metal bare bow, which is just kind of like a recurve, or just a single unit that mounts. There's no other like mounting brackets or anything. And then there's one where it runs with like 5 ounces on the back. It's got a little bit more of a wider disc, so it'll fit through that bare bow ring. And
Right.
that seems to be the bare bow crowd is absolutely just eating this thing up. I mean, and I it makes sense even on a recurve why this would work well. Olympic recurve, there's a lot of that high frequency stuff that you get right there, especially when you get to the back and getting through the click.
Absolutely.
Um, so you see, like in that instance there, we actually use a lighter wire and we use it and it's shorter. So the effective spring is the same. We use math to get where we got. But we're optimizing that for the masses. The perfect scenario would be if you could micro tune your wires, right? So it'd be like, okay, I just want 2 ounces on the end. But I mean, the thing of it is, you can get these things so long that it's not springing anymore. It's
Yeah.
just droopy, and
I'm not
we
sure.
played with that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure you want customers being able to do that, to be honest. Uh,
No,
just gonna
no, we really don't. You're
I'm just
right,
gonna, I'm
but I
just gonna,
mean,
I'm just gonna throw that out there as nicely as possible. Um,
yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. But yeah. So so let's talk weight capacity. So one point of clarification. Are you suggesting that people run the hunter version on target bows, or is that just something you just put it on there because that's what you had at the time?
Well, we wanted to do some additional testing, and I'd tested it on a hunting platform, and we had done some testing on, some target platforms and everything else. This was me personally, right? So this was my like. I'll be honest with you, we were so far out and we were so far in the hole on these other ones. I didn't feel like taking a bunch of scrap parts and throwing one together, and I had some Hunter Elite sitting there.
There you
I
go.
was So I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. And we had the other ones sitting around, and we weren't, like I literally couldn't spare one because they were all going to, to orders that were placed. And that's kind of where we've been. We've had like we'd get a bunch in, and they've already been pre-sold and gone, right? So I wasn't going to steal one. I wasn't
Right.
going to steal one from a customer. So we had a couple of these that were blems from the first ones that we got, and so I took that, and I put it pretty much where I had mine. It almost matched where I'd had one on a 37 earlier in the year.
Right.
When I first tried it out, when I was doing some testing. So I think we've seen a lot of people use the Hunter Elite in that application. I think if you want the ultimate, adjustability and be able to put it, basically anywhere, and really, really, dial this thing in and test and everything else, probably the full version is going to be the way to go.
Okay.
If you're like, I got an extra stabilizer hole and I just want to slap that thing there and see if it helps, then yeah, I mean the Hunter Elite is more than adequate. And I can tell you, yes, it does help.
Nice. And then so let's talk about weight. One, I would assume you can add weight, but how much weight and let's just talk about the regular one for right now. How much weight does it come with, and how much weight can you put on it? Efficient,
It comes Yeah. So it comes with 8 ounces of weight. And we have
okay.
our own, weight system. So it'll have like 6 on there. I'm sorry, it'll have 5 on there and then there's another 3 ounces that you can put.
Okay.
That's about the max.
Right.
If you go any more than that with how we have the wires set and everything else, you're gonna get that a little bit of that kind of droopy, just kind of over. It's not oversprung. You're going the other way. You're
Yeah.
going you're going the
It
back
won't,
end.
yeah, it won't react as quick. That's for sure.
Right. It's a lot softer. It's a
Yep.
lot softer, and so, honestly, I've seen people have like a lot of people have ran just the 2 ounce base, that's there with the end cap on it, which is a aluminum end cap. It weighs, virtually nothing, and they've been affected with that. And then I've seen people run all the way up to that 8 ounces. It
Uh,
seems to me that 3 to 5 seems to be the kind of that sweet spot.
okay.
Is where most people seem to fall in line, with what we've seen out there.
Okay. Nice. Well, I mean, I'm excited to. play with one, that's for sure. So, and just to reaffirm, those are the SOSs are made in Kentucky as well, right?
100%.
All right,
Yeah. So
100%.
our machine shop is in Kentucky. Everything's manufactured there. We've got a couple molded parts. Those actually, we keep it in the family. Those all our molded parts and even the Aculocks, those come from AAE.
Nice.
So
Nice.
they do quite a bit of injection molding there. So
Oh yes.
um, we try to keep it in the archery family. So
There you go.
but yeah, everything's made right there in Kentucky.
All right. So let's talk about some other things that are made in Kentucky. Uh, namely some laces. Um, so first of all, I thought it was cool to see you guys. And yes, folks, I'm gonna ask. I saw his video the other day about lead times. If you've been watching Bow Junkie the last 8, 9 years, however long it's been, yes, I'm gonna ask Eric about the lead time stuff they're going on with gas right now. I promise. But I saw you guys are like involved with the tax now. I thought that was pretty cool. I swung by your booth there at Utah, and uh, I like Sean DeGray, and I love the events that they're doing. For those that say it's dumb that they don't keep score, don't fucking go. But it's a good time, man. It's wow, wow. Did I stutter? Did I say that out loud? Um,
No, I heard nothing.
dude, they're fun. It's a fun event. I mean, we went out and shot it. It's dude, it's fun. And if you don't think every group is keeping score amongst their group, you should not smoke crack. They all keep score. They just don't keep score with everybody else. And they all keep score in their own ways. I promise you, if me and Eric were out there scoring, we'd be scoring like it was IBO Worlds. Trust me.
Oh yeah.
But uh, talk a little bit about that. I mean, I thought it was great to see you guys there. The gas station, that was fantastic. So talk a little bit, it's kind of over for the season now, but a little bit. So talk about
Yeah.
how the whole tack thing worked out for gas.
So we've kind of been tack tire kickers now for a couple years. We've been tack curious, right? So
Uh,
um, you know, everybody tells me, all the people that I trust, they're like, you need to be there. Like this is where you need to put some focus there. And so anyway, last year we had planned on trying to hit a couple different events, and I actually was trying to get to one, personally, just to experience it and everything else. And I feel like the fact that the first time I went to a TAC event was last August. I mean, I had to have been like I was living in a cave and hiding under a rock,
right.
right? I mean, there's just too much cool stuff going on there for to have not, gotten to one before then. So shame on me. But there I was, and talked to some people that I trust, and had already been hearing from a lot of other people like, hey, listen, this is legit. And so I decided we wanted to be a part of it. And so met with Rob Cholinsky, who's Sean's go-to guy on all this stuff. And I said, how do we, what do we do? How do we be a part of this? I mean, we want to, and I'm not saying, hey, listen, I want to limp in and I want to, toe the waters. I want to be a part of this.
Right.
Like I want to be a part of the TAC experience for these people and everything else. And so what I saw, and I'm just, trying to put my creative hat on here, is like, what can we, what can we bring to the table? What can Gas do to be a good partner for Total Archery Challenge, and to enhance the experience for the thousands of people that attend these events, thousands and thousands that attend these events every year.
Right.
And so that's where the gas station concept, came in, right? And it just so happened the stars kind of aligned on this, and lo and behold, before the first event in April in Oklahoma, we had signed the papers and closed on well, we hadn't quite, but we were almost there on a bow press company on top of that. So,
Right.
like I said, we talked about synergies that exist and everything else. So the gas station was our commitment to TAC, was that we would go to We were going to go to 11 events. There was a couple that we just had some scheduling things. I had a daughter graduated high school, and there was a couple other things we could not make all. It was going to be 15. And we were going to do 11 or 12 of those. Um, we missed three, right? So, but our commitment was to attend these events. We would show up with a full array of archery equipment, and this was everything. We had bow press, two bow presses, we had the draw board, we had all kinds of parts, anything you could think of. But what's the biggest thing that happens? And I you know I
Uh,
knew that this
are you
I had
asking?
heard.
Are you going to make me say it, or are you going to say it?
Oh, I'm going to say it. I had heard, right? I had heard that this was a thing, right? But I never in my wildest dreams, I had just a little glimpse of it at the small event in Indiana a year ago. But I never knew how many people out there are dry firing bows, derailing bows. I mean, they're falling out there, they fall and bang and everything else. There's, you name it. But I can tell you what, the gas station was so well received, and something that I think, created a really nice value add to TAC.
100%.
I and our commitment too was to make sure that we had strings on hand to fit the majority of the bows, that we're gonna come off that mountain with, people just
Issue.
sad, and they thought they were done, right? Here it is Friday. They got a big weekend plan with their buddies. They pulled the ultimate dumb move, and now they got to go home. Well, that's the way it was before. Now, they come down the hill, and this is like Narnia, right? Like there's nowhere else on in the world that you can dry fire your bow without consequences,
Gosh.
right?
Yeah.
You can't. It
Right.
doesn't exist. Go out there and do it. Go dry fire your bow. Walk into your archery shop and see how much money you've got to get out of your back pocket right there. It's going to be expensive.
Oh, yes.
Um, on that mountain, and under those circumstances, it might cost you a little bit of money. It might cost you a set of strings, but we put them on for free. And if Matthews is there, or Hoyt, or whoever, or Prime, or whoever's there, they've got cams, they've got mods. They're going to take care of you. You're going to be up, and you're going to be better than you came.
Dude,
Right? I mean,
I'll
it's
tell you one of the, and folks, Eric ain't lying. No lies detected. No lies detected. Word to your mama. But the thing that, and I watched this firsthand, like if you were to be at any archery event, ASA, IBO, NFAA, doesn't even matter, and someone has an incident, no one's going to put on new strings and cables on day 2 of Vegas and keep shooting. They're just not. They're like, I'm done. The, and I love these folks for this, man. They are ride or die, son. They will literally go. I watch this firsthand, people. A guy will have a failure, we'll just call it, for plethora of reasons. And he'll walk down there. They'll pull out a new set of strings and cable. They'll take some measurements. They'll do everything they can to get them just about right. He'll go back over, get his 20-yard pin dialed back in on the lift. I love it. I think that's great. I mean, are they going to be as accurate as when they showed up? I mean, maybe some would be more accurate, but the point is, yeah, they can have a failure like that. Whereas you and me, if that happened to us at a tournament, we'd be like, well, I guess I'm just hanging out. But these folks, like you said, man, it's a thing for them. And having to put on new strings and cables is just they don't think twice about it. I think it's great.
no, no, they love it too much,
Right.
right? I mean, you and I have been we we go to a tournament. If that happens, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really like rooting for that to happen, but part of me is like, well, at least I don't have to finish.
So
At least I don't have to. At least I don't have to come back out here in the hot weather tomorrow, right?
what
I
I'm
got I
saying.
got my I got my exit for the. Oh, sorry guys, my stuff blew up. No, these guys love it. Like
Yeah.
they 100%, like it's such a sad deal, right? Because they had a big weekend plan with their buddies. Like they're there because they love archery. Like it's not. there's competition, just like you said. I mean, and I've seen it right there. People come down there and be like, well, you know, Jim's buying hats today. He's the
Yep.
low man in the group right there. Be like, well, let's buy some gas hats. What do you
Yep.
got, boys? You know,
He
and
lost. He lost the most arrows, so he buys.
that's right. Now these guys love it. I mean, they absolutely love it, and keeping them back, on the range and being able to complete their weekend, it's just incredible. And I can tell you, it wasn't just that. I mean, we did everything from we changed loops to we're checking people's draw length. Somebody's like, hey, yeah, I mean, can you check my poundage? Yeah, you're at 65. He's like, go ahead, let's crank me up a turn, right? Like, like you'll change your marks. He's like, it'll be fine.
Literally.
I'll hit the target. I'll hit the target faster this way.
Right.
It's totally fine. Man, I can tell you, we even, I had a full, I had a drill and, I had, easy outs and everything else. I mean, I'm like taking screws that have been snapped off. I mean, like I put the skills to work
Yes.
this year.
100%.
Working, fixing releases that were cutting loops. I know a thing or two about releases. So,
Right.
get the little emery cloth and
Yep.
we're working those through. I mean, if you name it, I mean, the best one is actually one in Utah. And this poor gal, I didn't have a set of strings for her bow, and she absolutely rippled her cam in a bad way. We got the blessing from said bow company. I went ahead and took the file to it. I started, twisting things and getting it back, and I got this thing straightened out pretty good, and then took the string off and, tied it off, served the section between. Like, this thing was as doctored up as you could possibly imagine. It was safe. It was
Right.
safe. I made sure nothing was cut and everything was good and smooth and whatnot. But she come back and she was so elated. Like, she got to finish her weekend and she shot amazing, right? On
Right.
top of that, like, she's like, I shot so good. And so yeah, it was a cool season. It
Yeah,
was
that's
really
good.
cool. And I should say this too. The one thing is that you're still going to see gas, and you didn't see us. Yeah, we spent some time there and we did some stuff, but we're still at all the ASAs. We're
Right.
still at NFAA. We're still supporting all the other organizations and going to all the other tournaments that we were doing. We just, we branched out and we did this. This didn't come at a budgetary cost of cutting out this and this and this so that we could do this. I mean, we're still supporting the shooters. We're still supporting the competitive tournaments. This was kind of a neat thing. As we grow, sometimes our marketing budget grows, year over year, and this is somewhere that we just said, hey, listen, we want to be a part of that, and we're excited about it, and hats off to the guys at TAC and the organization they run,
Right. They
and
do.
how different it is from everything else, and we're coming back, and we'll be a part of it again next year.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love Sean and what they're doing is fantastic. So I, you and I have had these conversations. We've had a deep one we've had one at indoor nationals, and the one we did at Vegas that one year was, whew, that was heavy. But I got to ask, I
Yeah.
saw your video the other day, about lead times. Um, so I will, I understand it. It's a busy time of year. You guys are crushing it. There's really not, what am I going to say? Why? I can say why, but basically, I guess I'll just turn it over to you and say lead times. What's up?
They suck. Yeah, yeah, straight up. I mean, they're awful, right? I can't I can't sugarcoat it. It you know, Here's the thing. So every year I mean, you have to plan responsibly, right? I mean, the growth. I talk about scalability. I do all that. I mean, in business, and we're writing the playbook as we go,
Right.
right? There's nobody else that I can call up and say, you know, hey, XYZ bowstrings, we're really experiencing some growth here. How are you guys handling it? And the reason for that is that we're probably close. Well, I mean, I can tell you, we're twice the size of our next closest competitor, right? That's a big jump.
Right.
That's a big jump. And we've got we've got a ton of people that are cranking out quality strings. We're not willing to sacrifice that quality. We look at things every year. I look at it. It's a very, very, for anybody that doesn't know, my background or whatever. I mean, I didn't just fall into this, yesterday. I mean, everything from bow forecasting to you name it. I've been a part of all of that. And I mean, and I've been very fortunate to have, a good acumen of learning over the years of what you do and how you grow, businesses. And we go through all those exercises. We do all that, right? We say, hey, listen, this was a big year. At some point we're going to get flat. you know I don't think next year's the year, but we can't in good conscience sit there and say, yes, we're going to grow 32% again this year.
Right.
Like you can't do that when you are at where we're at in our size. You just can't do that. It doesn't matter what the numbers say you did the year before or whatever. There just gets to a point like that growth, it just gets smaller. And so we plan ahead. We hire people. We spend the entire, we get through busy season. I'm gonna wind back to last busy season. We got through that, and our lead times never got to where we are now. Like last year, they were never this bad, and I'm thankful for that. But we get through that. We plan for the next year. We sit down. We have a very, very disciplined process of how we determine what we're going to do in 2025. Right. Here's our growth. For us to hit these numbers, these are all the things that's going to have to happen. We're going to have to do, increase this much in dealer sales, and we do this much here, and this is going to require this many people for us to hit these numbers as we have forecasted month by month by month. And it's very dialed in. It's no different than any other business, but I just, I guess I should say that people don't think I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, and it is what it is.
Right.
And it's a pretty detailed and disciplined exercise, right? And we did that. We hired those people. We trained those people. We have a really, really good thing going with our string builders. I mean, we have a chance where our string builders in our community, they come with a professional skill, right? They can say, I'm a professional string builder, and they get compensated as such. People don't leave gas. Like that's the one thing. Like, our retention of our employees is amazing. Bringing and onboarding people that can work within our culture, though, that can produce the quality of strings that we need, and actually have a little bit of throughput and volume, that's a little bit of a challenge. And that's, we don't have the retention on new employees that someone would think. Just because we hire somebody, that doesn't mean they're going to make it with us, right?
Right.
It
Right.
just doesn't happen. So, we planned, we hired, we expanded, we created new stations. We did all of those things. We still can't keep up. I mean, we're working 6 days a week. And we're building, I mean, let's see, quick math. I mean, they're minimum 2,000 sets a week.
Damn.
Two 2,000 sets a week, right? It's actually, that's a little bit low, right? That's not strings, that's sets.
That's
Okay.
a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, it is. And we still can't keep up. Just let that sink in. If anybody saw my video, not the one that we did on gas, but there was a glimpse of a piece in a video that I did. I don't know, maybe it was even yesterday, and I showed like the QC wall. The strings that were on that wall, those weren't all going to make it through QC the next day. There were still going to be some of those, and meanwhile, that wall was going to, So what are we doing? We actually were adding somebody else to QC, right? It's got to be the right person, and we have that person identified, and so we're doing that, and we're still, I believe in the theory of constraints and removing bottlenecks and everything else, and trying to be nimble and doing all that stuff. But we're building that many strings, and we're still that far behind. So I think that's something for everybody to let that sink in. There's days we take in 700, 800 sets, of strings, and we can't make that much in a day. right? So, and, you know, and the other thing with this too is that, you know, I want everybody to know, like, it's one of those things that, I mean, we are literally doing everything. I mean, everything that we can be doing, right? I mean, you know, everybody's on peak season numbers. You know, that's a thing. We're working, you know, we're working Saturdays. Um, you know, I spend some of my days, you know, when orders are coming in right there, I'm pawing through the stock wall to see if there's anything that matches. Oh, look, you know, there's a Lift X33 flow green with black servant. We just, you know, had got one of those sitting on the wall here, you
Right.
know, in the package it goes, right? So we're doing everything. And I know, you know, one of the things that uh, it's probably easy to get frustrated and make the connection and say, you know, geez, you know, you guys are so far behind, but yet you're out at these events and you're doing this and you're still promoting and you're doing all these things. I mean, you should have I can promise you there's not a day that goes by that not every string station is full.
Right.
String stations are full. The you know, me and the team that go to these events, um, they're not the same people that are building strings back in the shop, you know. And I know that it's very easy. And I got it a couple years ago. I remember, you know, here it was September, and I'm trying to kill something in velvet, and I took my, you know, my oblique. I can't even say it.
I'm the one
My
here. I'm the one here with the speech impediment, bro. Stay in your lane.
oblique. Anyway,
Obligatory.
yes, that. Um,
This is going to
I
be another great moment in your podcast, by
this
the way.
this is water, I promise. Right? This is water. Okay.
Oh,
Um, so anyway, and I post the picture, and sure
ah,
enough, somebody doesn't say, "Well, it's nice, you know, we're waiting on strings, and here you are up in a tree stand." Uh,
yeah.
Man, I get it. I get it, but I can promise you, again, like every station is full. You know, if there was a station that wasn't full, I'd get out there and we built a bunch of strings, myself and Dylan and we had a bunch of people from the office that were building strings, you know, last year because we had some open stations to do so.
Right.
Right. I mean, and when people would get done and whatnot, I mean, we're doing everything we can, and us supporting those events and supporting the archers and the you know, the archery community by being there at, you know, at TAC, like a deal like that where we're, you know, we're helping people out and everything else. That's not affecting lead times. It's not. So, you know, again, and I've always been super transparent, and I hate the situation that we're in. I hate that our lead times are where they are.
Right.
And there's plenty of other string companies that are in, I mean, I'll call it what it is, that are in far less demand, that you can get their strings quicker,
Right.
right? There's nobody out there producing more strings than we are. There's nobody out there, you know, that's they're more efficient, or they're doing this or they're doing that. We just have that much demand. There's that many strings that are coming in, and there's only, you know, there's only so much we can do. Are we going to plan and expand again? You know, we're doing it now. Yeah, I mean, we used to have an indoor archery range, and it was absolutely beautiful, and then we turned it into production space. We put our archery range out in the warehouse. Now our archery range consists of a 10-foot, I lied, 12-foot corridor on the very, very far end of the building. That's our archery range. The rest of that is we're actually got construction now to turn the rest of our warehouse. Part of it went to ATC, and then the rest of our warehouse all turned into production space, and we're building that out now. Um, you know, we've got roughly 60 employees, you know, across our three companies, and that includes some of our, you know, some of our office staff and different things as far as that goes. A couple employees for ACU, and a couple, you know, designated employees, a few for ATC and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it is a good problem. I mean, I could definitely say, you know, everybody says, well, you know, geez, that's a nice problem to have. Well, I mean, I want everybody to know that it definitely, it still keeps me up at night though.
Right.
Like I want everybody to have their strings. That's why I'm personally, pulling orders as they're coming in, and I'm looking. And I mean, if you've probably gotten a call from us, a lot of people out here, listening, they probably said, oh, geez, yeah, Gas did call me and say, hey, I know you ordered, you know, tan and black, but we've got an OD green and tan string. That's exactly what you need for your LX. Do you want this instead? This can ship today,
Right.
right? We're doing that. I mean, because we do have we probably a couple thousand sets in stock as well. Between blackout and just different ones over the year, credit card declines or duplicates that were made or whatever it is. So we're trying to fill every order and when we can.
Yeah.
And we don't take it for granted. We understand the people that have to go somewhere else. I've said this before. Like I'm not going to be mad at you. If you're like, yeah, I can't wait.
Right.
I can
100%.
call up the other guy. That's okay. Like I get it. You know, but
Well,
those who wait,
yeah. Well,
I
look, man.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, look, like I said in the beginning, you've always been transparent. You've always owned it. You've taken the L's when there was an L to take, and you are gracious when it's a dub. And you've had a lot more dubs than L's. And for those of you
Yeah.
wondering, a dub is a win and an L is a loss, in case you're not up on your sports lingo. But I appreciate you, being as forthcoming as you are. And, look, it just is what it is. And so let me ask this. So you got Gas, you got ACU with a couple products. You now got the hashtag Spike Press Club with its little accessories.
I need to write that down. I'm gonna forget it. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. So hashtag Spike Press Club. Got it.
Triple extra large, by the way, t-shirt size.
Got it.
Don't
Yes.
don't send hats. I got a giant head, they won't fit. But here's my question. I know you're not done. What's next? What's next? Give it up. I know there's something. There has to be something. I know
Yeah.
there has to be.
So yeah, I mean, I've got some personal outside of the archery stuff. I do have I got some construction land development stuff that I've been working on around home here.
That's not what I'm talking
And
about.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, I'm just in full
Okay.
transparency. So
All
that,
right.
but so here's the dedeal. I made a promise to Carla Griggs, and I told her after ATC, she's like, this has got to be it, right? Like this has got to be it. Like we're not getting any younger,
Mm,
and like this has to be it. And I agreed. So I will say this: if yeah, I'm not actively pursuing. I'm not looking for other companies, and we've my just because the phone rings on a regular basis, and I do get texts and everything else, be like, hey, are you interested in this, or I think this could be a good fit for you guys, and everything else. And it would have to be the absolute, just all the stars aligned, type of right situation that was so synergistic with what we were already doing.
okay.
Um, that's what it would boil down to. I mean, now that said, within ACU Archery, that's a really big umbrella, right? It's a big umbrella. So, as far as new product lines and everything else, that's kind of stuff that we're looking at. And
I'm
I've got
I'm
a
listening. I'm listening.
I've
Continue.
got a
Continue.
we've we've got a bunch of really cool projects that are actively ongoing,
Like,
right? Some stuff that you'll see even this fall. Some more
like,
stuff that you'll see in the spring. I
like.
mean, here's the thing. Like, if you look at product categories, here's the thing. Like, I can tell you, I'm not going to jump into something that's completely flooded, right? I already work in
Oh,
one of those.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Several of them.
Bowstrings is as flooded as it could be, right? So I have zero interest in getting into a market where everybody and their brothers making one of them, right? And so that eliminates a lot of categories right there. But there are a few categories that are very, very light, underserviced, and have some room for improvement on the current products that are there.
Like,
Um, you're not going to get it. Not today.
I
It's
tried, people. I
you
tried.
know you did.
I
That
tried.
is a conversation for another podcast.
That's fair. That's fair. Hey,
But
all I can do is ask. All I can do is be annoying. All you can do is say no.
yeah, I mean, if you figure, ACU Archery, I mean, what do we stand for is, and I hate to, the word innovative is thrown around way too much, but we're trying to make some cool products that make people more accurate, right?
Sure.
Hence the
Sure.
ACU Archery, and I think there's some cool things there. I mean, there's a few categories where when you start talking to the absolute experts in their field and how they could potentially do some things differently, and how this could affect the ultimate accuracy for said archer. There's some things that have been that are untapped. So
All right.
um, that's where there's some things that we're headed. Like I said, I mean, there's a there's a plan. There's a long-term plan, and
Sure.
and there's so many cool products. I mean, if I had the resources and the team to I mean, we could just, there's so many cool things that we could really do, like even in a short term. But it's only so much mind share. And while I have an absolute amazing team, I have to be respectful for their mind share as well.
Understood.
And some of this stuff takes time. I mean, some of this stuff, when you start dealing with things that are, ultimately, going to get patented and everything else, you got to follow the process, and let some of that stuff go and get done as well, so that we make sure that everything's protected from an IP standpoint. So,
Go. Well, hey, buddy, I really appreciate it. I tried, everybody. Maybe when he does get some of those products done, he'll come on the podcast and let loose with them, but I did my best. But hey, man, I appreciate you spending some time with us this evening. I know you're 3 hours ahead, so it's got to be almost dinner and nappy time back there. But let everybody know where they can keep up with not only Eric Griggs, but his current three entities on the World Wide Web.
yeah. So, gasbowstrings.com, and, archerytoolingconcepts.com, acuarchery.com. All of those have Facebook pages and Instagram pages, and then I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Eric Griggs on both Facebook and Instagram, and we try to stay up on what we're doing, and just kind of keep things moving. So,
There you go.
um, yeah, appreciate you having me, Greg. Again, it's kind of we had all this exciting stuff, and then we had to talk about the real stuff here at the end. But it
Well,
is what it is.
yeah, well, I probably wouldn't have gotten crucified as bad as you, but there's no way in hell I wouldn't have gotten 100 messages going, "Hey, pussy, why didn't you ask Griggs about the lead time?" And then
Yeah,
I'd
it
have
is what it is.
to send them links to the other 3 videos we've done the last 10 years of me asking you about lead times. So anyway, but hey, everybody, that's Eric Griggs. He is owner of Gas Bowstrings, ACU Archery, and of course, Archery Tooling Concepts. Look for that hashtag uh, Spike Press Club swag and stickers coming anytime soon, because that's a real thing. I mean, I know you heard us joking about it. I'm not bullshitting you. You're my favorite turd. If you didn't know somebody, you didn't get a spike press. And when you got a spike press, you didn't tell nobody because you didn't want them to get all pissed they couldn't get one. As much as I want to say that's a joke, it's kind of not. And if you ever met George, you really know it's not a joke. He is a great dude. Eric obviously has been in the game for a long time. He's a huge friend of the program. Obviously, we support Eric and everything that he does. I value my friendship and relationship with him and his entire crew. So head over, check out what they got going on at Gas, and of course, AccuArchery. I'm going to get my grubby little mitts on a couple of those SOSs. Just the one that I played with on somebody else's bow showed me a lot of stuff, and I know a thing or two about stabilization. So I wasn't going to bore Eric with any of that today, but definitely got a lot of stuff going on. If I got to make a road trip to get one of those some bitchin' draw boards, I will. If I need to rob a truck or if I need to hire some people to whatever it takes. I'll get one of those draw boards, people. Trust me. But anyway, that's going to be the podcast for today, folks. I appreciate you guys. We're coming up on the weekend. I don't know where you're at, but it's hotter than the doorknob to hell out here. It's hot right now. So if you're going to be out and about doing anything, drink lots of water, take your electrolytes, don't sleep on dehydration and heat stroke stuff. It is no joke because you guys know the drill. We want to hear from you, not about you. And as always, everybody, love, peace, and chicken grease.